In this chapter, we'll try to understand what is Pythagoras theorem. Pythagorean triplet. If three numbers a, b, c are such that a square plus b square is equal to c square, then they are called as Pythagorean triplet. So let us foresee an example here, 3, 4, 5. So if I take this number 3 square plus 4 square, that gives me the summation will give me 5 square, that is 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16. If I add 9 plus 16, I get 25, and 5 square is equal to 25. So this is the Pythagorean triplet. Now if I add these numbers, that is 8, 15 and 17, if I take 8 square plus 15 square, it is equal to 17 square, that is 64, plus 225 gives me 289. Okay. Now let us try to understand, let us take any number, for example any natural number n. So how to find the triplets for any natural number? The condition is n should be always greater than 1, and here this is the formula. You have to take down this formula in your notebook and keep this in mind. Many questions can be asked in your examination based on these formulas, and this will be helpful in further classes, in future classes, to find any Pythagorean triplet. 2n square plus n square minus 1 the whole square is equal to n square plus 1 the whole square. Now let us try to see with the help of an example. So here the question is, write a Pythagorean triplet whose one of the number is 15. Okay, so I don't know which number is 15. So let me first take these numbers. I have three numbers with me, that is 2n. Then you have the second number, that is n square minus 1, and the third number is n square plus 1. Okay, so now let us try to understand. Let me take 2n is equal to 15. Now if I take n is equal to 15 by 2, I get it as 7.5, which is not a natural number. So definitely the number 15 is not the first number. Now let us try to take n square minus 1. So if I take n square minus 1 is equal to 15, the minus 1 goes to the right hand side, it becomes plus. So n square is equal to 16. Now here if I take the square root of 16, it gives me 4. So 4 is a natural number. So definitely the second number was my 15. Now I got the value of n. Now I will substitute this n in the three numbers. Now for example, I have the first number 2n, so I'll multiply 2 into 4, it gives me 8. Then I have n square minus 1, that is 4 square minus 1, that is 15. Then you have n square plus 1, that is 4 square plus 1, that is equal to 17. So this is how you are going to find the triplets of any number. Okay, so 8, 15 and 17, these are all the triplets, and you have to keep this one thing in mind. All the Pythagorean triplet may not be obtained using this form. Okay, so remember this. Next, write a Pythagorean triplet whose one number is, for example, you should remember this. The first number is 2n, the second number is n square minus 1, and the third number is n square plus 1. Okay, the first number is 6. So 2n is equal to 6. Okay, na? So n is equal to 6 by 2, that gives me 3. Now n square minus 1 is equal to, we have to find that. So n square, that becomes 3 square. So 3 square minus 1, that gives me 9 minus 1 is equal to 8. In a similar way, I have the third number, n square plus 1, and I know it is equal to 3. So I'm going to take 3 square plus 1 is equal to 9 plus 1 gives me 10. So I have the Pythagorean triplets, that is 6, 8, 10, 10. So this is how you are going to solve the Pythagorean triplet questions. Next, if I take 14. Now let me take 2n is equal to 14. So n will become 14 divided by 2, that gives me 7. I got the n value as 7. Now let me find out the second number, n square minus 1. Here n is 7. So I take 7 square minus 1, that gives me 49 minus 1, that is equal to 48. Next you have 9n square plus 1, that is 7 square plus 1 is equal to 49 plus 1 gives me 50. So the Pythagorean triplets are 14, 48 and 50. Okay, so next number, imagine if I take 16, 2n is equal to 16, so n is equal to 16 by 2, that is n is equal to 8. So n square minus 1 is equal to 64 minus 1, that gives me 63. And next one, n square plus 1 gives me 8 square plus 1, that is 64 plus 1 gives me 65. So the Pythagorean triplets are 16, 63 and 65. Okay, in the same way you can find out the Pythagorean triplets of 18. So 2n is equal to 18, n is equal to 18 by 2, n is equal to 9, n square minus 1, that is 9 square minus 1, that is equal to 80, and then you get n square plus 1, that is equal to 82, sorry, 81 plus 1 gives me 82, and you have the Pythagorean triplets 18, 80 and 82. So this is how we are going to solve the Pythagorean triplet questions. Now let us move forward. What could be the possible ones digit of the square root of each of the following numbers? This we have seen in the last class itself, the last video. The question here it is, if I take the square of this, if I multiply 9801 into 9801, what will be the unit place? So you have to just take the unit place, that is 1. So 1 into 1 gives me 1. Okay, so this is the answer. 1 into 1 gives me 1. Or sometimes if I multiply 9 into 9, 81. We have seen the properties 1, then you have 4, then you have 6. 4 and 6, if I multiply, it gives me the last digit as 6. Okay, 1 and 9, if I multiply, the last digit is 1. Okay, so that is the question. So look at this now. 98856. I have multiplied some numbers and I got this as a square. So what could be the unit place of the numbers which I multiplied? So it could be 4 or it could be 6. Okay, so 4 into 4 gives me 16 and 6 into 6 gives me 36. In the same way, once again, this is 998001. So once again, the answer is 1 and 9. Okay, and now look at this last number here. You have 25. So if you see the last number as 25, directly the answer will be 5. Okay, so this is the answer. Next, without doing any calculation, find the numbers which are surely not perfect squares. This was also done in the previous class itself. So these are the questions here. Looking at this number, I told you, you have to keep these things in mind. The numbers 0, 1, 4, 5, 6 and 9. If these numbers are there in the last unit digit, then the numbers is a perfect square. So let us see the first question. 153, 257 and 408. These are all not a perfect square except the last one, that is 441. So 441, the last digit is 1, which is in this list here. So it is a perfect square. Next, how to find the square root of a number? Square root is just the reverse way. So if I multiply 2 into 2, it gives me 4. Now I have to go in a reverse direction. So let us take number 7. If I take number 7 here, if I square it, I get 49. Now if I take the square root of it, I get number 7. So this is what is the square root idea logic all about. And this is the symbol. You can see this is the symbol used to denote the square root of any number. Okay, so 7 square is equal to 49. And the square root of 49, this is how I'm going to write. Square root of 49 is equal to 7. Okay, so if I ask you what is 2 square, that is 4. And if I ask you what is square root of 4, that is equal to 2. Okay, so next you have 3 square, that gives me 9. And square root of 9 gives me 3. Okay, next you have square root of 4 gives me 16. And square root of 16 gives me 4. So like this, square roots of positive numbers. Now for example, any number 1, 2, 3, 4, there are various ways. Okay, what are the square roots of 64? Now try to understand a small concept here. So let us take square root of 64. I'm writing 64 here, and I can write 64 as 8 into 8. So I can say 8 square. Okay, and I can also take 64 as minus 8 into minus 8. Minus into minus gives me plus. So this minus 8 square also gives me 64. So the square root of 64 on the left hand side gives me 8. At the same time, the square root of 64 on the right hand side gives me minus 8. So what's the right answer? The square root of 64 is plus 8 or the square root of 64 is minus 8. You have to remember one thing, students. There are 2 square roots of any positive numbers. So there are 2 square roots of this 64, that is 8 and minus 8. So you have to remember this. Every positive number has 2 square roots, one positive and the other is negative. So for example, let me see square root of 4, that is plus 2 and minus 2. Square root of 9 will be 3 and minus 3. Square root of 16 will be 4 and minus 4. In the same way, square root of 25 will be 5 and minus 5. This you have to keep in mind. Never do the mistake of neglecting this minus square roots. Okay, minus 2, 3, 4 like that. Next, there are three methods to find the square roots of any number. So these are the three methods. The first method is repeated subtraction method, the second method is factorization method, and the third is division method. So let us try to first understand the repeated subtraction method. You have square root of 81. So here what I'm going to do, subtract successive odd numbers till we reach 0. So look at this now. 81 minus 1 gives me 80. Then you take 80 minus 80, then you take minus 3. 80 minus 3 gives me 77. Now you take 77. 77 minus 5, it gives me 72. Now you take 72. 72 minus 7, you get 65. Now you take 65. 65 minus 9, it gives me 56. Now you take 56. 56 minus 11, it gives me 45. Now you take 45. 45 minus 13, you get 32. Now you take 32. 32 minus 15 gives me 17. And now you take 17. And the next odd number is 17. So 17 minus 17 gives me 0. So now you have to stop this operation. Now in how many steps did you get this answer? You have to count how many steps you got this answer. That is the square root. For example, here you have 3, 6 and 9. In 9 steps you got the answer. The square root of 81 will be 9, but you have to keep in mind the square, there will be two square roots, that is plus 9 and minus 9. Okay, so now can you just find out for the in the same way the square root of 100? Now let us try to understand. 100 minus 1, 99. 99 minus 1 gives me 96. 96 minus 5 gives me 91. 91 minus 7 gives me 84. 84 minus 9 gives me 75. 75 minus 11 gives me 64. 64 minus 13 gives me 51. 51 minus 15 gives me 36. 36 minus 17 gives me 19. And 19 minus 19 gives me 0. So now here you have to stop the operation and count in how many steps you got the answer. So here you have 3 plus 6 and 9 and 10. So in 10 steps you got the answer. The square root of 100 is plus 10 or minus 10. So you have to keep this in mind. So in the same way you can try it for root of 169. I'll just show you the answer. You have to just subtract the odd numbers. Okay, so minus 1, minus 3. Okay, so look at this. You get the answer, that is 0. So now you have to count how many steps you got it. So you got it in the 13 steps. So the answer is 13, plus 13 or minus 13. So I hope that you understood some of the shortcuts here. The Pythagorean triplet was the most important section that we have seen in this video. Thank you.